Good evening everyone, and welcome to the Planning and Highways Committee meeting today, Thursday the 19th of October. We've got no members of the public, so I'm not going to read all this out. As you all know, the procedure with the fire alarm go off, but just to remind you to put your phones on silent or off, please. Okay, so agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
It's full attendance, so no apologies.
Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosure of pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to the matter on the agenda. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, LW/23/0585 89 Sutton Road. It's very good friends with a neighbour a couple of doors down, so I won't take part in the discussion or vote.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
Thank you.
Sorry.
There's no public participation, so we go on to planning applications. So planning applications received week commencing the 18th of September. LW/23/0036 Rosecroft 42 Pearl Road. Reformation of 2-storey dwelling house with rooms in the roof and on site of previous house, alongside 2 single-storey double garages and swimming pool to the rear.
This is a strange one. Members who were on the committee before the elections will remember it. It's been a difficult site because it was granted consent in 2017 for quite an extensive refurbishment, extensions, etc. And just before the COVID epidemic started, the excavation started on site, and it ended up with the site being flattened, which wasn't the purpose of the exercise. The purpose of the exercise, as far as the 2017 application was concerned, was quite an extensive refurbishment, but not a new property. The owner explained, I mean, it was taken up as an enforcement case, but because of COVID it took a long time to process. I got complaints about it. I went out there and took photos, and it was really a flattened, it looked like a building site. There were excavators still on site, but there was nothing really much left standing. And the LDC enforcement officers were in dialogue with the owner and his agents over the 2020-2021, and eventually this an application was put in for quite extensive rebuilding and a swimming pool and everything like that in, I think, January, because yes, with the 0036 reference, it's quite an early application this year. So it's submitted in January this year. It was considered by us, by this committee in February, so it's before the new members came on the committee in May and June. And we objected to it, and I put the objection up there. There were quite a few neighbouring residents objecting, speaking at the time, especially a resident from the rear who would be particularly affected by the swimming pool and the alterations and extensions going on to the rear, longer windows, overlooking, etc., etc. So there was quite a lengthy debate, and there were a number of residents contributing to speaking and public participation, and so that was the objection that we came up that was resolved. Then about 2 weeks ago I was notified of the same application. So I assumed it was revised plans. But I don't look at the applications until maybe 4 or 5 days before the committee, because you need to give time for objections, if any, to come in. You need to have the up-to-date situation. And when I looked at the website, I thought, well, nothing's happened on there. The plans are the same. There's no new postings on the website except for a letter of support from probably a friend of the applicant. That's the only up-to-date thing on there. And the case officer was down as Julie Cattell, who I know had left about 4 or 5 months ago. So it's a bit of a mystery. But I've managed to sort of resolve part of it. I've emailed some of the planning officers, and it seems as if the application was misdescribed in January when it was submitted, and a new description has been allocated to it, and it's being sort of considered again. So that's the only change, and that's the reason why we were notified. It wasn't made clear in the notification, but apparently, and when I looked at the 2 applications a bit more carefully, it was, I hadn't noticed in the first place that the 2 descriptions were slightly different. So it's come before us again, resubmitted with a new description. So obviously the new members weren't involved when it was objected to in February. Just 3 members here, so may want to comment on it. But as it was objected to in those quite clear terms, as recently as February 16th, only 7 or so months ago, then there's no real reason for the committee to change its decision. The plans haven't changed at all, it's only the description. This is an admin thing. And I still don't know exactly why, but I haven't had time to dig any further into it. So, as I say, any member is free to comment. They might change their minds over the development, but that's the situation.
So just a thought. When it came before the plan committee in January, did you say?
February.
February.
Yeah, submitted in
Did
January.
it then go to Lewis?
Our comments went back to Lewis because our comments are actually posted on the website.
Did Lewis make any decision at that
Well,
time?
no. They still haven't made a decision. I think it was probably held up because the case officer, who was probably quite heavily involved in it because it's relatively complicated, she left. She's gone to Hastings, I think, Julie Cattell. So here's I can show you the layout plan of it. As I say, there's just this one letter of support from somebody who doesn't live anywhere near the site. Otherwise, all the documents are back from April. Because the application was submitted in January. Most of the comments came in February. Southern Water submitted their comments in April. Here's our comments. Our objection was dated 25th of February. I don't know exactly when we considered it. I think it was the 16th, something like that. And there are other objections on there. As I say, there was quite a lot of interest from residents around there because it had been a derelict flat site for such a long time, and it's in an area of established character. It's not a conservation area, but it's a smart area with designated under the local plan. I'm looking for a layout plan. Here are the proposed elevations. Just to give you some idea.
The wording from when it came before us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was week commencing the 23rd of January, so it probably was a February meeting. Single storey side extension and rear containing garage, swimming pool, single storey side extension to connect to garage to coincide with previous works. That's how we described it before.
I mean, you can see that the property isn't really, it's not hasn't got a comfortable scale to it. It's got these 2 long extensions on each side, And at the rear, you've got these long windows which were subject of the objection, and that's the side elevation. So it sort of doesn't really sit nicely in the character of the area, having these two long extensions, single-story extensions at the side, although the house itself obviously is in character.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I think we talked about the site extension last time. I think that was the bit which we didn't really like at the time. I think the actual site of the existing house on that particular footprint it wasn't too bad. The actual, but it's the extensions is the bit which throws us. I mean, they are substantial area-wise. I know it's only a single story, but area-wise, it's more than probably the site of the existing house. Or I think it's moved slightly, isn't it?
It sort of takes it out of scale with the area.
Yeah.
And I say it's also the windows at the rear. So to go back to our the objection, trying to find the objection. As I say, that's what was resolved at the time. So really, as I say, there doesn't seem to be any reason for resolving otherwise. But I'm aware that 3 members at least are looking at it for the first time. So. No, it's subject to comments from the members, those members. There's the objection.
Councillor Clay.
Yeah, when did this revised application go in then, Jeff? Right with the pool? When we see that?
Well, it's the same application as before. I was notified of it
So this is not really a new application?
No, but I was notified of it as if it were a revised application. Because when I see an application that we're notified of, because we get emails of every new application, and this was amongst a batch of emails of new applications, but it has the old reference on, so it stands out.
Yeah.
And but I assumed it was revised. I knew that the plans were controversial, and I assumed that the applicant had put in a set of revised plans, but under which he's allowed to do if it's quite soon after the original application, he's allowed to do it under the same reference. But you see, I don't study each application as it comes in. I wait until sort of, say, the weekend before an agenda goes out, and then I look at the applications as I list them on the agenda, which is usually the Monday before the Thursday when it goes out. So it wasn't until then that I don't need to look at them before then, because you won't get the updated stuff on the website. And that was when I took it up with the officers, and I got a response from one of the officers today to say it seems as if the description's been changed, but he couldn't really say more than that. So it's still a bit of a mystery, but there's no new plans to consider, so we can't really consider it.
Councillor Martwell.
Yeah, I mean, I've been aware of this site for quite a few years, and there have been quite a lot of complaints around the fact that it's been a derelict site and what is going on. So there's been that, which is frustrating given the situation of the planning application. It is quite a large site, and it does make me wonder whether if they changed what they were trying to do at the ends and put it somewhere else on the site, almost. I mean, as separate buildings, they'd have more success than trying to make it this massive building. And the big problem is that it overlooks Firle Grange, or which other road it is at the back.
At the back, yeah.
Which would be quite imposing. There's no doubt about that. And I think the list of concerns were all very non-contentious. I mean, they were good, reasonable planning concerns from that road. So it feels like we can't go on a new description. We'd have to go on completely new plans. And so, yeah.
I mean, I would suggest if members are, resolved to adopt the same objection, we just say that we note that there's a new description to the application, but otherwise it's exactly the same as the application we considered in February when we objected on those grounds, and then say so this objection stands, unless any members any views contrary to that, because it was a clear-cut objection. The residents were very straightforward and very with their objections. There weren't emotional objections or anything. They were so. You've read them on the website, so that's what I would suggest we say back to Lewis, and then perhaps at a future meeting I can throw a bit more light on what's happened in the system. Perhaps we'll get some revised plans, I don't know. But you're right in saying it is a large plot, and there are different ways of dealing with improving the property, but this one was, well, it just didn't really fit in.
No.
Okay.
It is a bit overbearing, isn't it? For the plot size, especially the pool extension, it's quite dominant.
Yeah.
Councillor Buchanan?
Yes, so just a quick one, because apparently they were comparing it to a 2016 approved set. And that also has these two garages at each side with like a couple of leaks in them.
Yeah, that's right.
They kind of joined them up. It now has a swimming pool, and it's a wee bit taller. Yeah.
There was an earlier scheme, but we mentioned that in the objection, that we said that even taking into account the consent granted in 2017, which was it was a 2016 application, I think, but it wasn't decided till 2017. Because we took that into account when we looked at the new application earlier this year, because you have to take into account what consent has already been granted, unless it's about 20 years ago, and it becomes a bit sort of prehistoric and you can start again. But in this case it was relatively recent, and we took it into account, when we, as you can see from there, it's quite a broad objection to it. So, yeah, that we had acknowledged that, but it was during that implementing that consent that most of the building came down. I think it was because perhaps they didn't. Well, you don't know the reason behind that. It could be any number of reasons, but perhaps it's because the fabric of the building wasn't as stable as they thought it was. I don't know. Be generous there and sort of stop explaining and leave it to your imagination.
Councillor Borman?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that we take Jeff's advice and say that there has been no changes apart from the description, and our objection still stands.
Right. Is that fine to second them? Thank you, Councillor Markwell. Can I have a show of hands of objecting to this application?
That's unanimous. Objection passed.
LW/23/0557, 57A Church Street. Change of use of first floor office to flat.
There's the floor plan.
Yeah.
It's quite straightforward. I think everyone knows the site on that corner. It's a reasonably sized flat.
Okay.
I think this is what the centre of town needs.
Exactly.
I couldn't see any problems with that at all. I mean, presumably there's just going to be different access, or the entrance hall is the same, but it'll just be, There's hardly any change except for splitting off the upstairs office into a bedroom and a bathroom or whatever it is.
Councillor Buchanan, are you proposing to support it?
I would support this, yes.
Okay. Councillor Warman?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just a shame we're losing office space. We have a severe lack of office space in Seaford as it is, but I can't find any other reason why not to...
Working from home is, of course, a bit, maybe not as affected Seaford as much as sort of bigger cities, but it still must have some effect. I think working from home has become more permanent since COVID.
Well, I expect partly on this case, Philip Man probably has less paperwork, so to speak, anyway. So a lot of it may have been used for a lot of paper, historically. And if you could really go back historically, it probably was accommodation anyway, wasn't it? But I suppose it is, if for sake of argument, another company did move on and they wanted it back to office again, I suppose it wouldn't be, would that be too difficult to move it back to black?
No, it doesn't look as if there's a lot of works going on.
But then you may have to, well, it depends how it's done, that's not, it's outside the committee, isn't it?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
But I know what you mean, on one level we want it to be, the centre should be more office, but then on another level, as we know, there's quite a lot of accommodation, people do live fairly centrally anyway.
Well, certainly
There's
down there.
flats accommodation,
Yeah,
so.
there's obviously a need for office accommodation, but it is, as residential properties go, it's an ideal, sustainable location,
Yeah.
and an ideal for a sort of younger person, young family, or starter sort of flat, which are quite rare.
Okay, so we've got a proposal on the table to support this application. Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Craig. And a show of hands, please.
That's unanimously supported. Thank you.
There was no planning applications on week commencing the 25th of September. So we go on to week commencing the 2nd of October. LW stroke 23 stroke 0544 and 0545 Pear Tree Cottage, Saxon Lane. I don't think I'll read it out the whole lot, but yeah, so it's quite a lot, it's involving quite a lot of...
quite a lot of detail which only comes under the listed building consent, which is 0545. The main part is the first few lines as far as the planning permission is concerned. It's the repair and replacement of the roof. You've probably seen the pictures of the defective roof, which I can put them up if you like. The removal of the chimney stacks and the replacement of the flashing is the main part. The rest are sort of more details of details relevant to the listed building consent. But we can look at...
And we're reusing the bricks and tiles.
As much as possible,
Yeah, which is good. Right, who would like to... Any comments on this? Councillor Clay?
Yeah, I've walked past the building quite a few times and it's been in a sorry state of disrepair for a long time, hasn't it? And what they're proposing to do seems to be bringing it back to the marketplace and restoring a historic building. So I'd support it. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman?
Yeah, I will second that. You wander past, you can see the state of it and the fact that they've gone into so much detail of actually trying to reuse near enough everything that. So they'll only be replacing small amounts is really good. So quite happy to second it.
Any other comment? So can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
Take both applications together, should they?
Yes.
I couldn't find any difference.
No, one
Well,
is,
it's all part of the same scheme.
I mean, it was, the documents were exactly the same.
It's more the internal works of the listed building works, more usually, and the very minor works to the outside that would normally be permitted development are usually the listed building consent works. The planning applications there for the reformation of the chimney stacks and things like that, more major work. But it is very difficult to delineate one from the other, but both applications both consents are required.
They just put sometimes they'll put on one just a small amount of information, the other one lots, whereas this one they've got exactly the same details. So
it saves time.
It does, what?
But it doesn't make it too clear for us. So both applications together. Right.
LW stroke 20...
I don't think
we've got to vote.
We did.
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we did actually.
I'm glad somebody else missed it as well.
It was unanimous.
Both together.
LW stroke 23 stroke 0571 Fairways, 41 Pearl Road, amendments to existing driveway with new brick garden wall and electric access gates. Let's lead on this one.
Zooming up a bit.
Councillor Liverpool, Honeyman, sorry. I'm looking at one.
That's a classic.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's fine. Yes, no, I think this should be fine. I have to admit, I did look up as to why this was driveway was being in the East Blackshington Conservation Area. So I'm assuming that's okay because it's all been done red brick, which is what it said it's allowed to be. White concrete capping. So I thought this was fine.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be
So
quite
a
smart.
proposal,
Yeah.
Councillor Martlow?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, I think it would be quite smart when it's
Yeah.
done, and it's kind of very much in tune with other things that are going on. But they're fairly an eclectic mix of group of houses up there, really, but a lot of investment
Yeah.
in all of them to bring them up to quite a high standard, and this certainly is.
Yeah. Are you seconding?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Any other comments? Can I have a show of hands supporting this application?
That's supported unanimously, thanks.
Thank Held up U stroke 23 stroke 0585 89 Sutton Road. Erection of two-storey side extension over existing detached garage, single-storey flat roof, rear extension, composite cladding to front and side elevations and rear dormer. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Cannon?
Just a few observations. If you go on Google Maps or even walk along the street, you'll see that the other buildings, there's 4 houses kind of along that area,
Mm.
and they all have been kind of extended.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see any immediate objection to this one.
Councillor Martlow?
Yeah, just to say it's in pretty descriptive. The site is not in great repair at the moment, and I think it will just bring it up to be fair, to be very similar to the others. They've done similar extensions. It's got quite a big space, you know, around the plot.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, obviously it will be an improvement.
Councillor Hanneman?
Obviously this was one of the houses that was actually brought, and then when the planning fell through, so it's that one. I have to admit, I did struggle with that one because there wasn't that many details.
I think there's a reason for that. I was going to comment when members had their say. I was going to comment on it. But,
I found it difficult because
Yeah.
I was like,
I think that plan shows what Councillor Markwell said, that it's in proportion. There is a gap there. It's in proportion. It doesn't project to the rear further than
No.
the other properties, and it leaves a similar gap to the other properties. So, in principle, I think there's not much of a problem. But when I saw composite cladding in the description, having looked at those houses quite a bit, because I was involved in the appeal last year. That was the Churchill appeal. They got permission to knock down these 4 houses, 83 to 89. They succeeded on one of the buildings they put forward, a slightly modified one from the original, but failed on the first one. So they got their plan B through. But when they went on site to do some more investigations, they found it would require piling, and it would make it unviable because of the cost of putting in the foundations and everything. The soil was, the land was unstable, I suppose. Not that there'd been any settlement or anything or problems with the properties that are there, but the ground didn't come up to the standards, and they would have been required to put a lot more money into the building works, and so they've dropped the scheme, and the houses have presumably gone back to individual use or for sale. in that appeal, as I said, one of the appeals was rejected, and rejected on the grounds that the inspector said that the larger rest home building that they put forward, Churchill, would have affected the character of the area. So she did put quite a lot of emphasis on the character of the area, and so knowing the area quite well from that and having a look again at it today, the problem is that there's composite cladding on the new extension there, which is the grey boards that you've probably seen now used for, you know, more and more for modern housing, but there's no similar materials used in any for about 100 yards, and there's a bit of render, there's mostly red brick, and they're putting cladding here. I don't think you probably stop them because that's a sort of existing. It's not in the conservation area or anything, so that's an existing wing which they could put cladding on if they wanted to. But I think there are grounds, if you support them, for saying that the use of this grey cladding would be out of character, and I think it's worth mentioning that the inspector, in the decision which came out last December, so it's quite relatively recent, did put enough weight on the character and appearance of the area to justify rejecting one of the plans from Churchill. So she obviously thought quite a bit of the character of the area, and this would, I think, disrupt it because it's all red brick. It's not a conservation area, but they're attractive houses. It's a sort of a gateway to the town. It's where they're quite prominent, visible because of the open area on the downs before going west. And I think there are grounds for saying that, if members agree, for saying that the use of composite cladding wouldn't be appropriate and red brick would be more in character.
Yeah, I agree.
Although, to say in principle, there's no problem with the size of the extension.
Councillor Buchanan?
Yes, I agree with that. That's no problem. I just wanted to say that when I went on the website at the weekend, all I could find was the application form. It was only when I went on the website again 4 hours ago that they had all the drawings.
It took a couple of emails from me to the case officer. He was very good, actually. It's James Emery, who's always very cooperative, deals with quite a lot of our applications. You probably know James. I think he was at committee last week with Lee Palmer, I think. Anyway, he was very helpful. He said, I've just been on there and I see what you mean, and he managed to get the full plans on there for me yesterday. As I said earlier, perhaps I should check the applications earlier, but I don't get around to doing it until usually the Monday. So perhaps in future I'll try and do it a bit earlier, but at least we got the plans on there by today.
Yeah. I did notice there was no design statement to this, which usually gives you, a lot of information.
Yeah. I think they're required to do it for extensions, but they sometimes do.
But usually when it's a big one.
Yeah, it is. It is quite a major one.
Yeah. Okay, so can I have a proposer?
Are we proposing a change to the submitted plan then? Because we're accepting the build and the extension, but we're not necessarily accepting the plannings, the cladding.
Yeah, cladding, yeah.
So can we propose? What do we do? Do we propose a change?
I'm writing something down here.
Okay.
So we support the extensions in principle, but object to the use of composite cladding, which would be out of character with the area as opposed to red brick. And also, I can point out that the character was supported by the inspector in that previous appeal on the same site. I won't go into all the wording of that, but
because it's a mixture of red brick and
render a bit
rendering.
further down. Yeah, it's mostly red brick.
There's
in
no
the
cladding along that road.
But also, it's not very grey with the red brick.
No.
It's no designation, but it's quite a smart row of houses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Councillor Craig?
Yeah, I suppose even timber cladding would be more in keeping than
Well, yeah,
composite
Yeah.
cladding, you know, sort of wood, proper wood.
exactly. Or even that is not, it's not sort of traditional, but it would be better.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah. It's a shame. It's used quite widely now and it's sort of accepted, but it's not as good as traditional
If you look on the
materials.
seafront,
Yeah.
Part of it is the heating as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's better insulation, I suppose. Yeah. It's cheap. It's quite cheap.
Okay, so, what's that?
Yeah, that's what I proposed.
That's what Jeff has written
Yeah,
down.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
there's
do.
supporting in principle, but object to
Object to the
cladding,
to the cladding,
basically.
yeah, okay.
Does it find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Honeyman. And can I have a show of hands, please?
That's supported
Yeah.
unanimously.
Yeah, 'cause
Councillor
this is,
Dorman
Uh,
didn't vote or speak or anything.
Remarkable.
Didn't breathe.
For a few moments.
Right, planning applications received the 9th of October. LW stroke 23 stroke 0598 and 0599 Sutton Place, Eastbourne Road. There we go, it's another application for listed building consent.
Just something, just not.
Yes, thank you.
Interesting, really, I always thought this was part of the Newlands site, and it is in a way, it's owned by the same people, isn't it? So do you think they've deliberately let it go a bit? Because it seems, as far as I can see, that's what it looks like, and no one's really been living there for years. I mean, so it's none of our business, and Newlands really used it, even when the school was there. Maybe used it for storage, possibly. Well, I don't think it was used for accommodation. It was never mentioned in the Newlands application at the time.
Yeah.
But I know when part of the Newlands selling, where just remind me, please, Chair, you're right, you'll know the answer to this. The space for woodland and all that sort of thing for the public, or was there going to be one football pitch left, or did they decide to leave the the woodland for?
It was to make sure that the setting of Sutton Place wasn't impacted at all. So the football pitch was moved from there to wherever it will be by the payment of money.
But did they not change their mind at the end and just not do the football pitch, but just do leave the wood there, so to speak?
Yeah,
I'm
because
not-
if you remember on that,
Yeah.
the left-hand side of the Newlands development, it was made to be parkland
Yes, right.
instead of the football pitch.
Yeah.
And it was because of the impact the football pitch would have on Sutton Place area.
So it's left in a more natural state with a play area well away from the that boundary.
Well, if I can quickly come back, obviously they tend to demolish a little bit, don't they? But I think most of the trees are staying as far as they can see, so they are keeping that.
That's the big west front extension which is to be demolished, which is a bit like a house adjoining, a smaller house adjoining the bigger house.
Yeah.
Pity there's no photos because it's not accessible by the public. So if we ever needed any photos, we need them for this application, but there aren't any, except the chair's got.
And
And the rear extension there is to be demolished as well.
I mean,
So
finding
the new footprint is on the right there.
Yeah, but the heritage statement was 47 pages, wasn't it? So
that
it's
is
quite.
what
Yeah.
it is
Oh, it's
for
good,
last
yeah.
year, because I went there last year.
Okay. And so that part of that building on the left there is not used at all then, because it's flipped up.
Oh, I mean, so Chair, it's immaterial if you
So
did use it.
it's
I mean,
that bit at the end there, this end,
Yeah.
is what's going to be demolished.
Right.
That is pictures of the rear.
It gives the house a better proportion, really,
Yeah, because it's been,
added to it.
which is
Yeah.
not.
Mucked
So
around.
presumably they'll then do the house up and sell it on.
Well,
Yeah.
it's 5 flats, yes. I mean, in this sort of situation, you have to put quite a lot of trust into the views of the conservation officer because it's specialist. And I know I spent a lot of time with the conservation officer on the Constitutional Club inquiry, and I know, I mean, she is top notch, and so I don't think there's any worries that they're going to get, and put a fast one on her. But it's difficult for us to assess it really because we don't know the nature of the structure of those extensions. But we do know that they are modern extensions. It's quite clear that the original house is a nice scale, and this is a bit of a, although it matches the design, it is a bit of a lump on the side, and the one at the rear certainly is a bit inappropriate as well. But there's one concern that we've got. I mean, so on the one side, there's the question is, our comments on the proposal to knock down quite a substantial part of the existing building on the grounds of what the conservation report has come forward with, and to convert the inside to 5 flats, which won't take a lot of alterations of the facade or anything like that. So it's good that it's being restored and turned into flats. It's quite an appropriate use. But when they asked for pre-application advice, which is what applicants are advised to do in schemes like this, especially schemes like this, they did propose 8 houses in the grounds to act as enabling development, which is whereby the owner of it's usually a listed building, nearly always a listed building, the owner of a substantial listed building which needs substantial work to put it back into circulation, if you like, as a proper house home, is able to raise money to support that building by securing other development in the grounds. Usually it's often a situation like this. It has been done before. The courts have commented on it before as well. It's quite a sensitive area, but it's quite clear that it's open to the owner of a substantial listed building or a country home or wherever to do that. The problem here is that the officer last year in the pre-application advice commented that it might be possible to justify the enabling development, although two of the 8 houses that were shown in the proposed layout would, she said, be a bit too close to the main house and would have an impact on the main house. But whenever you've got enabling development like this, you do need to show that the cost of converting the house justifies, on the other side, having giving the sweetener, if you like, of permission for however number of houses they're asking for. But in this case, they've just put forward, although they put a sort of composite scheme forward for the pre-application advice, the actual application is simply concentrated on the house. It doesn't mention the additional houses they want, or that they appeared to want last year when they asked for the pre-application advice. So really, it's a bit odd that they haven't mentioned at all the need that we stood last year, as far as they were concerned, for housing to subsidise it, if you like. So, if in the whole scheme there would be over 10 properties, say between 6 and 8 houses and 5 new flats, and that would take the limit of the new development over the 10 units, whereby they would need to contribute a certain number of affordable housing units under the Lewis local plan. As it stands, there's only 5 additional units here in this application, so there's no requirement or no affordable housing obligation at all, because it's under the limit of 10. but we wouldn't want a separate application to come forward for 6 houses. They may be thinking they avoid the affordable housing obligation if they succeeded in getting the 5 new units in this application and put a second application in for say 6, 7 or 8 houses in the grounds, which was shown on the original layout in 2022. So we wouldn't want this to be a way of avoiding the affordable housing obligation. Also, I think in any response should question the fact as to what's happened to the enabling development that was part of the scheme that they submitted for comment back in 2022. If you like, I think in the statement that went to the pre-application, or in the pre-application advice, you'll be able to see the housing scheme which they proposed. What's that? That's it. That's it. Couldn't see what before. I think somewhere in this response is the layout of the whole scheme. Yeah, here we are. You see, it's quite a detailed response from Lewis back in 2022. I'm not sure if this is going to work. This download system is a bit cumbersome. It doesn't seem to be downloading it.
Have you downloaded it before?
Yeah, I did at home. It gave me an individual page on the screen when I tried to download it. It didn't. Yeah. I don't think it's going
If you go to
to.
see more at the bottom of your download little bits,
Yeah. Yes, that's an idea.
you might be able to find it lower in your list.
Yeah. Good point.
While Jeff's getting that up, do you want to say what you want to say, Councillor
Yes.
Markwell?
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I was thinking that, I mean, we're making quite a lot of assumptions, aren't we? But with a slight coating of cynicism. But one of the things that I thought may be the case is that if you're going to reduce the section of the main building of that large piece, then that area that's left will probably end up being car park for the 5 flats, which seems reasonable because they're going to need that, aren't they? And they're taking the bit off the back as well, so presumably I couldn't quite see on the entrance which way you'd go in, but I presume you'd have car parking both front and side of the building. If you then, you'd have to think about the space for car parking. I was thinking, given what Jeff was saying about the potential for building other properties, that you're not leaving much room for parking. I mean, a lot of people have more than one car as well, so there's, even though you're creating more room on one end, if you were worrying about having another number of properties, apart from the fact that you're thinking about the social aspect of it, there isn't much room left on the site for another 8 properties on top,
And that was
with parking.
That was definitely a concern of the conservation officer. She said all parking should be kept off the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I was
and
just
so
kind
that-
of thinking how that would, you could see viability of car parking on the one side, and if you reduce that other little bit of an L, you've got possibly a bit of parking there. There's nothing for the other buildings, because that will probably be for the flats that are going in. And the other properties are they derelict or are they in occupation on the site?
There's some in
There's some in
occupation.
occupation, aren't they?
Yeah.
So,
Converted farmhouses.
and are they leased then? presumably
Mm.
to
I don't
decide.
think
We
so.
don't know. Well, then they'd have to decide whether they were be prepared to sell up.
It's a pity I can't.
I don't
Get
think
that
I
money.
don't think this development will affect those particular properties. It's because they're on that side, the Newland side. This is all more or less on the
But they
opposite
wouldn't
side.
have room. Yeah, what I'm saying is if they then wanted to add on another bit to that, they're taking it down, creating a car park. If they wanted to then add on to that again, then they're reducing their car parking space. I don't think there'd be enough car
Well, I
parking
think the
space
ones-
left would
the
there?
They're not adding on to it again.
No, if they were going to if they're going to add new properties.
That's around the site, not
Yeah.
around the building, not
No,
listed
building.
buildings,
Oh,
around
right.
the whole site, because it's a large site.
Right, so there's space on the site to just build anyway without disturbing the current.
Yes. Yeah, but maybe not 8 they wanted. But
Mm.
yes, it's sort of, yeah, there would be sort
There,
of
oh,
3
right,
houses
okay.
up there, and maybe a house there. And there was going to be a house, I think here, a house here,
Ah,
which would be a
okay.
bit too close, which they
Mm.
said. Seems we can only deal with what's in front of us. We know from the background documents that there's an intention to build houses, however many. As we know that they wanted to build 8. The officer suggested that a couple of those shown on the layout were a bit close and impacted on the. The officer gave no indication that 6 would be acceptable. The officer just said, well, you'd need to justify. They can be fitted in, but you'd need to justify it and everything. But they haven't come forward with the details. So I think.
Is there a timestamp on applications for planning that are concertinaed? Like you get one and then you get another, so that you escape loopholes.
Not really, no. But there's no rule to sort of prevent them coming back any time. I think if you are mindful to support the scheme as far as the house is concerned, and sort of obviously accept that the conservation officer will be involved in justifying the demolition. But if you sort of broadly agree to that, I think you may want to add to that resolution that you are concerned that although they said initially that they'd need some houses to subsidise the work on the house, there's no plans, no proposals for those houses in the application, so that can't be assessed. Whereas as enabling development, it should be assessed alongside the work to the house, and that there could be a suspicion that by splitting the 5 flat application to the 6, 7 or 8 house application, it takes it outside the affordable housing obligation of 10 houses or more. I don't think we can be criticised for saying that, because it initially came forward as one scheme. It's not as if we've got evidence of their intention to build houses there from that first scheme that was considered informally, if you like, by the officer only a year or so ago. So, that's what I would suggest. Obviously, if you agree with that, but you've got, the main thing is really to consider whether what they put forward as far as the main house is concerned is acceptable. It's difficult because, as I say, without the expert input of the conservation officer, it's difficult to assess that sort of thing. It's a bit like tree applications without the arboricultural officer's input. It's a specialist area.
Yeah,
Councillor Holland.
it's a shame the town council's not based down the way. It would be quite a nice location. There's not enough space for council chamber in there. Well, I've been facetious.
I think that's a
Slide.
lovely idea, Richard.
Well, who's there? Who's been in there? Did you see him in there?
Sorry?
Who's been in there?
Yeah,
Chair?
yeah.
So is there a big enough place for council chamber?
yes, there is, definitely.
And parking.
Yeah. But, it's a lovely community area that there, and I said to Jeff earlier, about 8 years ago, I tried to get a conservation area on there, and I was told no, because of the Grade 2 listed building of Sutton Place protects the whole area.
Yeah, it's the sort of curtilage of the main house where all these developments are. It looked on as the curtilage of the house, so it's all protected.
I saw all the whole, so you don't need to get conservation area on
If you
that
like
bit.
call it an estate, yeah.
But to my mind, it qualifies, you know. But there we go. Councillor Bourne, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't mind what they're doing with the listed part of the building, but my concern was the pre-app advice and the enabling project of the 8 houses. And we already know from the family involved with the lack of affordable housing that they gave us for Newlands, and I think this is why they have split this project to get out of affordable housing again. So yes, that is my main concern, and I would like something mentioned that it should be seen as all together, especially if something comes forward in a few months' time, which is the likely thing as a separate application.
Going on that premise, would this mean if this did go ahead, this would be counted as a windfall site again then? Because obviously that's why the stuff that happened in Newlands wasn't allowed to be counted in the
Because Newlands sort of arose after the call for sites, but before the plan was sort of devised. So it fell into a sort of empty area in the timetable whereby it couldn't be, it was too late to be allocated. And so it became a huge windfall site.
Any other comments? To be perfectly honest, I'm not happy with the whole lot. Because I just feel it's a listed building, and I'm not happy with the west wing being demolished. But I appreciate that what they're proposing is to preserve the building, which was originally described as a lodge. But then, yeah, I'm not 100% happy. The other thing is they're going to replace the roof with Canadian slate, and I just wonder if we can include that they can keep the Welsh slate in one form or another on site, even if it is for, you know,
decorations.
Decoration, yeah.
Welsh slates are the traditional material.
Welsh slate is special, and it's sad to lose that to the building. But
Chair, I was just wondering, on the picture that you showed us, where the demolition was going to be, that those seem to be boarded up archways, and I wondered whether that half of the building was more likely to have been previously storage or stables.
yeah, I'm not sure what, I can't remember what.
They are keeping the archways.
Yeah,
They are keeping the archways.
The
It's the other
archways
end,
are there, I
is it?
think, aren't
Yeah, I think that part of the building, there's somebody lives there, because I seem to remember it was up for sale last year.
Yeah, that's why the red line's there, I think, because it's sort of a separate unit from Sutton House
That
itself.
bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's the
there's
other
that bit there, which is being demolished.
Yeah, it's not such a clear picture of it, but it gives you an idea. It usually disappears when I touch it. Something.
Well, so that was a house. But it was an additional house, I guess. So there was an addition to the build on that end.
I think the feeling is it takes
I think
it affects the scale of the original building.
when it became a school.
Right.
Well, that's why it should. So it was. It was a sort of annex to Newlands School. Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
someplace school.
Not being local, I don't really know.
Sorry, through Chair, that's why I asked whether it be included in the windfall site, because they said it was part of the Newlands School.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All owned. I mean, it was like Newland School itself, when they needed an extra classroom, they just built it. You know, it was all very bitty, the Newland School. Council.
I was going to say, seeing it, reading through what they've done for the pre-application, it's a few times, like 4.9, 5 apartments are proposed in the pre-application, feedback received as being positive. There's quite a few comments there that they felt they were being positive. It was being positively seen.
I think it was sort of, they encouraged it because it was seen as a way of bringing the house back in circulation, back to life. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Unless there's any other comments, can we have a proposal of what you would like this committee to do, to say?
Well, I've got one comment. I was just feel reluctant to support it, but I don't really know enough about the site to make an informed decision about it, really. So I think I'll probably abstain.
We'll see what comes. Councillor Mark.
I was just wondering, could we ask for a viewing?
What now?
Well, I mean, we don't know enough. It's a Grade 2 listed site. But the conservation officers.
No, I think,
Probably not.
yeah, if we were making the final decision, I think it's fully justified.
Yeah.
But as consultees, I think we're just expected to comment on
Okay.
what's there and what we know. Yeah, I don't blame. I mean, you know, I'd like to see the site as well, but it's a private site, you know, and not one of these sites that's not visible to the public. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I sympathise. But I think, you know, if I were on Lewis District Council's Planning Applications Committee, although you're discouraged from asking for site visits nowadays because it delays the process, I think this is one case where it's justified. Whether it goes to committee, I don't know. It might not. I think if you're unsure about the justification for the demolition, you can always say, you know, you are unsure, that you hesitate to agree to, you know, demolitions of you know, on a site like this, but you would go along with the advice of the specialist conservation officer, you know, on those matters, because it really is difficult for you to say one way or another. You don't know the ins and outs of it. You don't know the nature of the structure and everything like that. Whereas the conservation officer for Lewis has gone over this, I'm sure, very, 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 very carefully, both inside and out. So you can always, it's not a cop-out or anything, because we haven't really got the knowledge that we need to make an informed decision, I don't think. It's a bit, as I say, similar to tree applications. I think if you're concerned about the housing side of it, which hasn't been mentioned in the application, you can bring that forward and say, you know, you're concerned that the scheme should have been seen as one entire scheme. But I think as far as the proposed demolition of the west wing and the rear elevation, you're sort of, you don't really think that there's sufficient information there on such a specialist subject for you to say clearly one way or another, but would leave the decision to the recommendation of the conservation officer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because you simply haven't got the knowledge and the information. Nobody has, except the specialist. But
I'll propose that then. I'll propose what you've just said, Jeff.
right, fine,
And I'll second that.
fine. Right, that's fine.
That's with the housing
I don't want to, you know,
element as
I don't
well.
like to sort of
Yeah.
intervene too much. You know,
No, but
obviously it's your
affordable.
response, but I just sort of trying to assist.
Yeah, so we're essentially we're supporting the principle of what's going on, but we obviously got. You would use the concerns regarding that demolition of the west wing part of it.
Yeah, it's quite substantial.
Yeah, and then mention the with the housing. You originally thought about the extra houses were going to be built at the same time.
To my mind, why give it a Grade 2 listed building, which includes the west wing,
Mm.
and now they want to demolish it?
Yes, I can mention that.
And it's a substantial, as we see the building today, it's a substantial part of the building. Although it was added later, but, you know, I just don't see why, you know, we should.
Well, I can put that into the decision, and you'll see the draft minutes, so you'll be able to
Yeah.
vet those on behalf of the members. So yeah, I mean, I've got the main points in here, but do members also want to add the point that about the regret that the housing isn't part of the application, although it was seen as an important part of the overall scheme, and that.
And can we mention that it was, because in the pre-app it was an enabling project for the restoration of the listed building,
Exactly.
which is the wording in the pre-app.
Yeah, I'll go back to that statement and all that.
Because I think that's the statement that really stood out,
Mm.
and then it's why isn't the housing there?
Mm. And the affordable housing point as well. I think it's difficult because it's specialist, as I say, and it's quite a large scheme. But I'll if that's supported, then I'll put a form of words down and you can agree it when I send you the minutes early next week.
Mention about the.
The slates as well. Yeah, I've got all that. Thank you.
All those additions.
So that's been proposed by Councillor Honeyman and seconded by Councillor Borman. Can I have a show of hands, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
with one abstention.
You're abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think it might register a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting one.
Yeah. Come back to us no doubt.
And there again, the two application numbers we've taken together.
Yeah, they're taken together. Thanks.
Okay.
Miss that.
Right, tree works. TW/23/0087/TPO 40 Barn Close.
I think this is the one, it's T4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which means,
So far on the
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Took me a while to find
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Spot the tree.
Councillor Buchanan.
yes, I think so. I looked on Google Maps, and I think there's a road there called Cradle Hill Road. So that's an old map. Is that correct?
98, that was.
Yeah, it is an old map, yeah.
It is an old map. Yeah. Okay, because one part of the application says it's hanging over a road, I think, and yeah.
Councillor Honeyman.
Yeah, I did look up to see about pruning of each, just to check, and it does actually suggest, it looked on the RHS website, so the Royal Horticultural Society website, and it said the plant may be spoilt by hard pruning. So I don't know what they're defining as being hard pruning, because obviously taking off 4 metres
It's
from
a
more
lot,
directions and 1 metre, then reducing to 2 metres is a lot.
It is, yeah.
That's a lot, so I would be slightly concerned. I also didn't see, and I may have missed it, there wasn't a arboriculturist hadn't been contacted, unless I missed that, to get their advice, tree officer. So I don't know whether that's
No,
something.
it's just the applicant.
It was just the applicant, so that was what was concerning me when I looked that up, is whether we need to actually get a tree officer in to look, to see whether actually that's going to be too much in one go.
Well, they will look at it now, yeah. I mean, I think it's quite substantial, I think quite justified in saying concerned that this pruning seems to be quite substantial, but would leave the final decision to the council's arboriculturists. So flag up the concern, but just leave it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
Oppose that.
Oh, thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Borman. And can I have a show of hands, please?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. TW/23/0088/TPO 3 Elm Close. Councillor Hanlon?
I looked this one up as well. It does say that Holm Oak does like to be regularly thinned and responds well to regular pruning. But obviously this one again is 30% reduction, which obviously is a lot.
3 metres, isn't it?
So I don't know whether that again we need to do the discretion of the tree officer.
Councillor Marwell?
Yeah, because basically home oaks are quite amazing trees, and because I have a lot of them on our site, and they harbour many different species of animals, insects. You know, if you're going to reduce that much, then you're going to you could be losing quite a lot of potential wildlife. I don't know, pigeons, sparrowhawks, squirrels running up and down, whatever you might have there. But you kind of need to be aware that that might impact on that as well, and I'm not quite sure how that fits into the planning, the TPO, but it does make, it comes into the area of why you preserve the trees in the first place, in taking off so much. So I do think that's quite important. It's obviously the right time of year because most of them have flown now, but it's still quite an issue for.
Okay, anybody else? I suppose we could say that we're not happy with the 30%.
Yeah, I'd say concern at the extent of the pruning, because it would be a 30% reduction, but happy to leave the final decision to the tree officer. So raise a concern, but as I say, leave it to him, because I think the decisions which we'll come to later show that the tree officer has supported our concerns in some cases, and that's could be okay.
Okay.
Right.
So, who's proposed that? Is that fine? Seconder?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. And can I have a show of hands, please? Thank
That's carried with
Against?
one abstention.
Okay, thank you. Right, we've got an application for noting, which is LW/23/0594, which is the Martello kiosk,
Yeah.
the Esplanade. It's
Members know the background to that one.
yeah.
Kind of do.
I don't know if anybody looked it up. Councillor McCann?
Yes, thank you. Just a very quick one, and I kind of went through this with the guy, Paul, and other planning officers for the project officers. As far as the planning application is concerned, this was the only real drawing on the website. I kind of paced out the available space down there for the changing places pod. Apparently my shoes are exactly 1 foot. A foot's a foot. And it fit, but it's very tight, and there's some funny little areas around where the pavement and the road actually sit. So, this is great, it's going through planning, but there will come a time when some more detail will be, I don't know, because that level of detail isn't in the...
They might have already asked for it, I don't know, but it's obviously it's gone through full council, so there's not much we can do about it really, but
we didn't have the drawings there, either.
I haven't looked at it, but it's in the hands of agents who they might have contacted our agents and sort of. I think the address is up in Huddersfield somewhere.
It is, yeah.
They might have contacted them for more information. I don't know.
These are the people that put in the planning applications.
Yeah. Architects in Huddersfield.
That is just for us to note, so
Noted.
Noted.
Thank you very much.
Usually noticed.
So we move on to agenda item 5, road closure applications for November and December.
Yeah, there's a few details to add to these. The first two, very straightforward. They are just for noting because they are applications from our own projects and assets events manager. Remembrance Sunday, we organised ourselves, obviously Christmas Magic Lantern Parade. There may be a possible need to have an earlier closure because there has been some talk of providing some entertainment during the afternoon for the grown-ups as well as the children, and having Archway Choir in there or something on the stage, which would require an earlier closure, but I presume that's sort of generally supported. That's usually left to the to Sharon to sort out, but I'm sure members wouldn't oppose a bit of extra entertainment for the grown-ups while the children are enjoying their lantern making. But so they're just for noting. They're sort of delegated to Sharon and her assistant Helen. The late night shopping and the family fun days, they're sort of new applications from the Seaford Traders Association, from Victoria Skippings, who runs the sort of literary extravaganza Party Emporium, yeah, at the bottom of 4th Street, and just around the corner in High Street. Since these applications were made to Lewis for the road closures, she has modified her applications just for one late night shopping day, which will be the 14th. So she's not going ahead on Thursday the 7th. And one family fun day, apparently, on the 3rd. So she's not going, which is the day following Seaford Christmas Magic. So she's not going ahead with the proposal for the 10th. When somebody applies for something like this for a road closure, there is often a need for another application to be made to us for a street trading consent. And certainly in the case of the 14th of December, late night shopping, they're proposing to have some stalls there which will require street trading consent. So while we can comment on the road closure, but the whole event won't be allowed until the applicant has supplied to us, that's to our events, assets, projects, events section, what's required for a street trading licence is to do with insurance, risk assessment, etc., etc. And Mrs. Skippings is in the process of supplying information needed for a street trading consent for the 14th. As I say, she's dropped the idea of the Thursday the 7th as well. As far as the fun days are concerned, she is saying that she doesn't need a street trading licence for Sunday the 3rd because there won't be any stalls or anything, but we think that there might well be a need for street trading consent if, for example, there's something like a children's roundabout or anything like that. We're going to have to go back to ask her exactly what she's proposing for the 3rd of December so that we can vet whether a street trading licence or consent is required. So we're only being asked to look at the road closures as a committee. As Lewis, we're on the consultee list. It's coordinated by Lewis District Council. Consultation invitations go out to the police, fire, ambulance, and us as Town Council, and Highway Authority, obviously Sussex. So that's one thing. But at the same time, you need to be aware that in parallel to this road closure application, where we're invited to give our views back to Lewis DC, there is also a street trading consent process ongoing, where the application is delegated to Sharon Bryden as manager to deal with. I mean, it's only the 19th of October, there's plenty of time for the applicant to get applications in if they're needed and get the required information in. But it needs to be explained because there's two things running in parallel. So we're really only being asked for road closure comments.
Okay, Councillor Councillor Martland.
Yeah, I was just wondering about road closures and notification to the public about how early in advance, if you're going to have a road closure, only because we keep seeing these road closures when we're going to travel to London. So, yes, so the fact that you have to make the public aware, and I wondered if there was a particular deadline for that.
I don't know what deadlines Lewis use for it, but they've got their own procedure for doing that. You know, they will require the applicant to do it within a certain date, you know, under their conditions if they allow the road closure. But that's all down to the applicant to do in this sort of case.
Okay.
We're just on that side, we're just a consultee. We don't have to require them to give notice to residents for just a street trading consent, because that's not that doesn't impinge on the residents so much as the closure of the road.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of the fact that you have these yellow signs that you have to put up, and who puts them up?
Yeah,
Is it that the district council then puts them up because they know that the road's going to close, so they give notice to the
district council coordinate all of
Do
them.
they? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And these smaller notices are usually by the applicant.
Yeah, Town Police Clauses Act notices that you get them down here for the market, don't you? Yes, I think in the next meeting we're going to have the market dates for the whole of next year, so that's going to
Okay, you had his hand up.
Councillor Clay.
Yeah, there's also the temporary events notice thing to consider as well.
Well, yeah, she's going to be asked about that.
Expected to be consulted on that, aren't we? So,
Yes.
Anybody's got an opinion on alcohol being sold?
We don't get notified of temporary event notices.
No, we should do.
We should be consulted on that, but we don't.
We've asked to be consulted in the past, but they're not very good at consulting us on licensing applications. Also not very good on putting licensing applications on the website, which they're obliged to do, but they're obliged to keep a register of licence applications. I've asked them about it quite a few times, but there's difficulties with the now that they're in with Eastbourne's system apparently is okay with it, but Lewis have got a different system, computer, as you probably, well, they've got a different system for planning application inspections as well. And I think there's been something wrong with the difference between the two systems, which means that Lewis haven't been able to put their licensing applications online as they're required to do. It's been like that for the last 3 or 4 years. I haven't looked lately to see whether it is available, but I suspect it probably isn't. So yeah, we should be informed of TENS applications. They can't really come to committee because they're made usually, the response usually required within a week or two. And they're sort of, it's got a quick procedure for them. But they should really go to an office, be delegated to the town clerk or an officer within that section. But we never get notified of them. So.
Okay.
Councillor Hyman.
Couple of things. If they're saying they're not going to trade, then they can't really sell alcohol anyway. So I'd say no alcohol basically on both occasions. I think that will conflict with existing pubs and cafes anyway, which do have licences. I still can't see how why do you need road closures if you're not going to put anything there, if you're not going to trade anyway? And so we can't believe they're not doing any sort of trading on either day. So
I don't think there will be any, although it was mentioned here. I think looking at the situation now, I don't think the applicant expects there to be any alcohol sold, from what I've heard in the update from the officers dealing with Mrs. Skippings. But the thing is, it hasn't really been finalised yet. And it's, she's taking quite a bit of time to finalise her intentions.
Councillor Bourne as well.
Councillor Bourne.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the outside rep for the Street Traders Association, and Councillor Markwell attended the meeting with me as the Chamber of Commerce representative. And there was talk that the alcohol would possibly be the, I can't even remember what it's called, whatever, it used to be the office bar, used to be Flintstones, whatever it's called now, Saxon Bar, that they might come just into the road with like mulled wine. So it's not excessive alcohol, it's just like mulled wine, which we've had traders selling mulled wine from on the street from the cafes or things as we've had Christmas magic. So it's not a pub on the high street, it's literally mulled wine or something like that.
But they're still selling it, aren't they, Chair?
Sorry?
They're still going to sell it, aren't they?
Yeah, but and then
Yeah,
but
that's
they'd
what I
have
mean.
yeah, but we've had different people
Yeah,
on
but they
our
have-
market stalls
yeah, but they've
selling
licensed for it,
alcohol and,
haven't they?
and they've
It's
had
not
their own
licensing.
TENS licences. So it's
It's about the licensing, isn't it, really clear, isn't it?
Mm.
That's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
issue.
the person holding the licence would need to make sure that it was covered.
yeah, but it's not as if it's going to be a wild party down there. So I haven't got an issue with their road closures. I think they want to do something, and all the traders are involved in doing and putting on these events for the residents, and it's what the shopkeepers want. Then I think we should actually just support that. When it comes down to the street trades licence, that's where we need to be more involved with making sure they have got the relevant insurances, risk assessments and everything else in place. And I know the officers are working really hard trying to get all that information and support them as well. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Hunneman?
Because this is what Liz said, not quite exactly. That I would support the road closures, obviously as long as they comply with everything that we're being asked them to comply with.
Mm.
That's something they have to do, otherwise the event can't go ahead. So yes, I think it's going to be good for Seaford Town, for these events to go on. But yes, they must comply with what we're expecting them to do.
Okay. So,
There's no objection to road closures, and sort of note that the discussions regarding street trading licences are still ongoing, and that final decision will be delegated to Sharon as assets and I can remember what it is. Assets and project manager, I think.
yes.
To
Events.
to make the final decision. Okay, and the other two are noted.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if we take one, so can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Baldwin, seconded by Councillor Hunneman, and can I have a show of hands?
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6,
Yeah, this is.
update report. We asked to note the report unless there is any comments.
Just a short comment. It's very encouraging that majority of applications have gone along with our comments, and the ones that haven't are where they've, in all three cases, Barn Close, Broad Street and Upper Belgrave Road, there's been revised plans in reaction to our objection, which is obviously an objection shared by the case officer, and it seems to be sort of resolved through those revised plans in each case, because members will remember, especially the Upper Belgrave Road one was the wide dormer. They brought that in quite a bit on the revised plan. Broad Street, they came in with plans which the Conservation Officer certainly okayed, a much improved appearance for the facade, the front, I think. And on Barn Close, it was a stepping down. The Lewis District Council officers do back our views on the importance of setting large two-storey extensions back from the main development or the host house, and setting the ridge height down to make it subservient to the main house rather than one big block. And so it's good that they which is part of the neighbourhood plan design guidelines. So we do get good support from the Lewis District Council officers on that point. They take it up as soon as we mention it. So on all three of those, the outcomes were in line with our responses, which is good. Catherine Way, they'll be required to put a full application in because Lewis District Council decided that the rules only allow these enlargements where it's above the actual dwelling house, and this was above the garage. So the garage was, under these regulations, the garage isn't seen as part of the officially part of the dwelling house, which can be given an extra story. So that will require a full application. They were trying to take a shortcut application via this prior notification procedure. And the tree applications, again, 3 Sycamore Close, I remember Councillor Honeyman saying that it didn't seem to lean, didn't seem to require, it didn't seem to justify removal, and the officer agreed, which was good. And the Sycamore, I can't remember the exact reasons given for that reduction. I just think again, I think again the tree officer just said that the work just wasn't required.
I think it wasn't in there, it was on outside their garden,
Oh, I see.
and it's like it was on Alfriston Road,
I
and
see.
it's, I think it possibly belongs to East Sussex County Council
Oh, right.
land,
Well,
and they want those trees as protection for noise and pollution between the housing, and
Yeah.
I think that's possibly why it was refused.
yeah. Right. Well, thanks for that. And then lastly, the appeal at Florence House, the hearing has been put back from originally due for 14th of November, but because there are two other appeals being dealt with on the same day at hearings, being moved back 4 weeks to Tuesday the 12th of December. It'd be interesting for me to see what the marine workshops at New Haven look like.
Impressive.
Okay.
Look forward to that.
Any questions?
So members of the public can attend that appeal.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like you can. So would you expect that to have gone all day?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the last one went on till 5. The one that we just mentioned earlier about Sutton Road, that was a full day, but it finished just after 5. It started at 10, an hour for lunch. This one, yes, I think it's just as there's just as many issues in this one as in that one, so it'd be a full day. And that's it.
Okay. So, no report?
Noted.
Yes,
Noted.
That's it, all done.
Okay, so that concludes the meeting at, come on,
34?
8:30, yeah, 8:33. Just,
Yeah, 33.
okay, thank you everybody for coming.